stream, which is a bit, which is a bit unusual for me. And someone obviously wants to contact me via my computer, so bugger that. So the thing I want to talk about today is number one. Those of you who've been watching my videos have noticed that I've got COVID, and so I want to take this opportunity out to sit back, relax, take it easy, recognise that COVID is not as bad as I thought it was, and to do a live feed on a subject which is extremely current, and that is in relation to the funerals today of the two brave police officers who were murdered on the 12th of this month as they were attending a home on a property looking for an individual who supposedly had gone missing. And as a result of that, they were gunned down. Not only were they just gunned down, when they were lying on the ground after being shot the first time, they came up and executed them. Now, it is horrific to notice or to acknowledge the horror of what actually happened on that occasion. Absolutely, absolutely horrific. And it shocks me to think that in Australia today, we can start having murders, assassinations that we would expect in the United States, frankly, but we certainly don't expect here in Australia because of our strict gun rules. And I noticed also the other day that the Port Arthur massacre survivors and families, which happened in 1996, those families are calling for stricter gun rules. We don't know, or I don't know at the moment, what sort of weapons were used. I would doubt that they are automatic weapons as they have in the United States, AR-4s, 14s, whatever they are. But the fact that they were able to line up these police officers and shoot them is in itself horrific. It was a very emotional service, I thought. It was sad to hear the stories of these young people who were relatively new to the police force. I think one of them only graduated in 2020 or 21. And what beautiful people they are or were. And how someone chose to do away with their lives simply because they had a skewed, bastardized version of the way the world is. They had constructed a world around this notion of sense of sovereignty, that they were sovereign citizens. They believed that the world was corrupt, everything around them was corrupt, the whole system is corrupt, people are corrupt, police officers in particular, for whatever reason, are corrupt. And therefore that justified their motivation to killing two innocent people. And it surprises me. It surprises me how people get those views so misconstrued, how they build up this sense of paranoia based on no specific evidence of the facts, and to take it out on two innocent people. Now, I understand those police officers represented something to them that you and I probably will not be able to understand, but nevertheless, they chose to destroy the lives of two people for the sake of an ideology which has no substantive background or fact-based information whatsoever. It is simply born out of paranoia. Now, I'm the first person to understand that the system in itself can appear to be corrupt. I get that. As a social worker working with families whose kids have been removed, I understand that as well as anybody else. But I don't believe for a moment that the social worker that I'm seeing that's taken a child is them of themselves corrupt. The system needs to change. I get all of that. A lot of the systems around us need to change. None of the systems in which we live and work are perfect. They have people within those systems who utilize the systems to their own benefit, who find ways to monetize whatever their environment is and their offices and the type of jobs that they have so that they can enrich themselves. I also understand that they don't follow ethics and that to some extent, some of those people don't have principles, they don't have a moral compass. They simply do whatever it is they think that they can do to gratify their own sense of purpose and self. I understand all of that. But there is nothing in any of that that says that we should, in effect, kill people who represent that system. Nothing. It is beyond me to even imagine how people can get to that stage. Now, I do know of people, though, who hold conspiracy theorists or conspiracy theories as a benchmark as to how they define their world. I get that. I see them. I speak to them. I was having a conversation with someone the other day who had that same sort of perspective, who instead lives in the country and has the same sort of views, I guess, as these people did. And I wonder, what would it take for that person just to step over that line and say that if a police officer turned up in my property, I will shoot them? Like, what does it take? And I think that basically what it takes is sitting in that paranoid state for as long as you do, which could be years, in fact, and then to be confronted with that authority figure may set you over the limit. And I said to this person, look, if what you're doing, and there's a certain thing she was attempting to achieve and hasn't done so, and I said, look, if you haven't been able to achieve that doing what you're doing, and that is pushing back on authority and arguing with the courts and doing all those things that you do, if none of that is successful, then maybe you need to look for another alternative, another way, another approach. And when I reflected on that, I thought, well, if you've got to do if there is another approach, for you, maybe that is about taking the law into your own hands. Maybe that is about storming the courts or doing something that is violent in order to get the thing that you think you want because that's the only way you believe that you can. As opposed to changing your behaviour, understanding the way the system works, and then trying to find ways to work within that system that best suits your needs rather than being aggressive about every bloody thing that happens. And I understand that people may not be able to acknowledge that there are alternatives to the way that they're behaving. But if you're behaving in a way that's not getting you what you want, then you need to find alternatives. The sad thing for me is I think that people tend to believe that their view of the word is so correct, that it's so entrenched as to who they are, that nothing is ever going to shift them. And there's a whole range of people out there who sit out there with these conspiracy theories who will never be shifted. And I don't understand the rationale. I don't understand how people can become so entrenched in a certain view. But there again, I can understand why someone might have a certain religious perspective. And one could argue completely, if you're an atheist or if you've got counter views, that their view is untrue, but they're never going to shift because for them it meets some sort of spiritual or ethical value that they hold. And I guess that's the same with conspiracy theorists. They want to believe in something because that is what has specific meaning to them. Whether there is fact to support it or not becomes totally irrelevant. They just want to believe in those singular ideas because they're the ideas that make them feel a part of the world in which they have created. And what they do is they associate with a group of other people who have the similar ideas to them. So they're fed these ideas. It's a bit like people who go to church. You're going to be fed with those same ideas every Sunday or every Saturday or whenever it is you go to church. And they're going to become one layer upon another layer of confirmation around those beliefs because you're with a group of people who believe the same as you do. Now, my fear is that there will be people that will see what these three terrible, despicable human beings did to these two constables and the neighbour. And they're going to glorify that. They're going to make that into something which is horrific. And they're going to see their own sense of glorification through all of that stuff and think then that that is a way by which they can become relevant. And it's sad because this particular case in Queensland where these three people, innocent people, were murdered, in my view, was inevitable because of the types of views that some of these sovereign citizens and others have about the world, and that they become isolated. They live on these properties, they collect guns, they talk non-stop, no doubt, about society and the way that it's affected them and the way it's intruded on their lives and prohibited them from being the type of people that they want to be. And as a result of that, there is no alternative. I think that we need to, it's really difficult to, you can't lock people up because they have a different view to you or potentially that view might be of threatening. If they're out there making bombs or they're making statements about directly threatening and killing people, then sure you can. But if they're quietly sitting in their home putting together their weapons and waiting for that opportunity for someone to come around, then yeah, that threat is real. But you can't arrest people for things that you don't know. You can't arrest people for the way they're thinking, thank God. So you need to, I guess we need to monitor those people. So I was thinking, if the department had known, if the police department had known about the way these people think, if they had more information as opposed to just going to this farm site to see whether or not they could meet up with this person that supposedly had gone missing. If they'd known something about this person and the people that were living in this farmhouse, perhaps they could have been more cautious. I'm not blaming them. This is a sad thing. Very, very sad. But maybe we need more data. This is a terrible thing to say as well, because this runs against everything I believe in. But, when it comes to some of these people, perhaps we need to be more wary. We need to know their beliefs. And there had been lots of indicators, I think, about the way these murdering bastards have actually been conducting their lives over a few years. Enough, perhaps, to be wary of what potentially they may do. But I think the point is that most of us don't expect it. The police didn't expect it. Certainly those lovely, innocent people that died, they didn't expect it. But what disturbs me even more is the bloodthirstiness of it. The fact that they decided to execute these two people after they were shot. Is it not only just shooting them was horrific, but choosing to execute them, I just don't know what meaning that would have had. And that, was it justice that they themselves were mowed down by the police in the end? Was that justice? I think it would have been more just for them to have been caught, placed on trial, humiliated in front of the rest of the world. That to me would have been justice. I don't believe in the death penalty, so I wouldn't be suggesting that. But I think they got off lightly, frankly. I'd like to know what you think about any of that, and particularly if you've got a view around it, let me know. Put a comment down below. Please subscribe, ring the bell. Let me know what you think, and let's continue the conversation. In the meantime, as I'm wrestling with COVID, take care, look after yourselves. I'm looking after myself and my wife, so that's just demonstrating I've got COVID. No, just a cough. Look after yourselves, take care, and make sure you're looking after everybody else as well as we head in towards this interesting season, and make sure that you're safe.